Thank you. We've been joined by Assemblywoman Barron. I do have two more questions. Steve, I want to do a follow-up to Mr. Kavanaugh's, the dialogue the two of you had about jobs. I hope you aren't suggesting that we should be allowing people to manufacture and sell products that are toxic to the public because it creates a job. Is that what you were saying?
No, not at all. What I'm saying is that to ban a product, and why I said it was a very dramatic thing to do without having the sufficient evidence, has other consequences. And when proceeding down that route, you have to look at all the potential consequences. Now, if you're asking, should a company continue to produce a product that has been proven and taken off the market or restricted, that's a different issue. And I don't think any of our member companies would ever do that.
Okay, I didn't hear that qualifier in the earlier dialogue. One more question then, because also as part of your dialogue with Mr. Kavanaugh, I think you came to the conclusion that weight of the evidence is the general standard that you'd like to see employed, and you also were suggesting earlier that rather than talk about broad-based flame retardants, what specifically are we talking about? So let me ask you then, weight of the evidence with Firemaster 550, with TDCPP, with TCPP, the tris chemicals, which have been identified as known carcinogens. Does not the weight of the evidence say then that those should not be permitted?
Let me answer this one, because again, I go back to my introduction, which is, I think, and we respectfully request the opportunity and the time for our agency to look into a lot of these issues. I don't think we should be in a position right now to answer some of the more technical questions without allowing us an opportunity to have done some of the research that we need to do, because as you know, I think you know me, Chairman Sweeney, in all the years that I've been in Albany, that we stand by our information. But I make it an imperative that our information be solid. And right now, because this is so new to us, that I'm concerned that we don't have we had not had the time to get all the information that I think is needed. We were here because this is an important venue. We wanted to introduce ourselves in terms of what we're going to be doing, and we would request an opportunity to get back to you on that particular question.
Sure. When you feel, keeping in mind what the question is there, weight of the evidence, and when you feel that you're satisfied in your own minds, I certainly would like your reaction. We banned the one form of tris in New York, but the problem and the reason why we put forward the legislation we do is, we banned lead, and so now they use cadmium, which is probably even more problematic than lead is. We ban one form of tris, but you change the formula a little bit. Now there's other forms of tris that are just as problematic, but going through this one by one is just not a reasonable way to approach this issue anymore. And so I would like you to consider not only the specific, with regard to the specific chemicals I mentioned, but the overall big picture. You indicated that you are open to and a proponent of a change in the way things are regulated. So those are the things that I'd like you to keep in mind when you get back to us, that we're no longer satisfied with going through this one chemical or one element or one substance at a time, because it's just too easy to change the formula and keep something on the market that is a real health problem, number one. And number two, because we think the weight of the evidence with regard to the specific flame retardants that I just mentioned is there in favor of banning them.
Thank you. We appreciate that opportunity, and we we will follow up. But if I could just mention one other thing, and it's kind of a follow-up to what I said earlier. We hear a lot about safer alternatives, and simply changing the formula is a lot more complicated. And I think you heard Jackson say that in those instances where it's less than a simple process, and we brought it to EPA, and EPA said, no, you can't do that. We have to go back to the drawing boards. But my point is, when we talk about safer alternatives, and in some instances, we may even make, some of my member companies may even make some of those safer alternatives. The issue is that when you have compound X and you have 20, 30, 40 years of research versus what is alleged to be a safer alternative, we may not have the same research and experience base. And as a result, that safer alternative, if it starts having problems on the heels of something that was looked at 2 or 3 years ago, it becomes that snowball, because the safer alternative was put up as the answer, but because we didn't have sufficient research and experience with it, 2 or 3 years later, that becomes a problem because someone says, hey, there's another safer alternative. My point is that with any compound, the research and the science is really important, and we're constantly trying to build that better mousetrap, and we're constantly trying to keep up with the science. And sometimes it doesn't always work, and I'm not sure if that's the same example that you were trying to use, Chairman, but those are some of the challenges that we face when we hear safer alternatives.
Well, I understand that, but there are probably very few products on the market that have been experimented with for 30 or 40 years. Products go on the market all the time for which there is some limited amount of research, and the best you can ever do is to go with the weight of the evidence, the scientific and medical evidence that is available to you at the time. I don't think anybody's asking anyone to do more than that.
A lot of the chemistry actually has been researched depending on the product, because again, one particular compound can go into 1,000 different products, and that compound could have been researched and on the market for many years in product X, but now you've got a new product that this compound can go into. That's the marvel of chemistry and innovation, and why we play such an important role in our economy. Because of that innovation, and you change the molecules and it can go into a new product. But the science behind the original use of the compound and all the research that has since followed could be as much as 30, 40 years.
I understand.
Okay.
Ms. Barron.
Yes, just following that line of information that you've given, it's been many years, decades, since I took chemistry in high school.
Me
but
too.
Are you saying that the research for a particular compound that you're using now to project what the interaction would be when you put it into a new product, and think that the reaction would be the same and that the result would be the same when you're making it a combination now with a different product, combining with different elements in a new product? You're basing the 30 and 40 years of its interaction in a particular product, taking it now and putting it in product B. You think that you can rely on that information to say that it's still continuing to be safe?
In some cases, I think you can, but again, as Jackson said earlier, even in the new applications, we have to show that it is still safe, which means that even in the new application, we're under the science for other applications, we still have to prove that it is safe.
Right, but you wouldn't use the 30 and 40 years of previous evidence to say because it was safe in a particular application 30 years ago, 40 years ago, it'll be safe in this new application.
It's possible. Yes, it is possible.
I have to review my chemistry.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.